Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dear student, welcome to Finance and Banking class. This is Nasir Farooq, lecturer in Finance and Banking at Greenfield School and College. Today, I am going to take a special class. The chapter is first. The name of the chapter, Finance and Business Finance. This is an important chapter for the student of class 9 and class 10. Creative questions is given in every years. The SSC and SSC's examinations or SSC exam. Today I would like to describe some important topics from this chapter. This is my third lectures. In first lectures I have described the finance and classifications of finance. The second second lectures. In my second lecture I describe the different kinds of finance or ethics of finance. In my third lectures today I am describe the most important topics, principles of business finance. There are some kinds of principles of business finance. One is liquidity versus profitability principles. The second is competence principles. The third is diversifications and risk distributions principles. So dear student, I hope all of you attention this lecture in my lectures, and if you attentions these lectures, you can able to understand and you can easily answer all the questions from this chapter. So the principles of finance in the present competitive open market economics, every governments, non-governments and international business institutions has to finance with great importance in a pre-planning way, thought the use of the well thought and effective financial management. The risks of the institutions are reduced and profit is increased. So for making profits, for making a profit maximizations, a business finance a business organizations or a financial manager always try to maintains the all the activities in a farms and running in a business and as a proper way. That's why the financial managers, the difference financial managers divided the principles of finance is different way. The business finance or managers means fund collections as per requirement, investment of this fund in short and long terms, and the management of fund distributions. This management processing following some principles with furnished below. There are three kinds of principles. One is liquidity versus profitability principles. At first we have to know what is principles, what is liquidities and what is profitability principles or profitabilities. Liquidities, I mean when a financial manager invest in a projects or collected money from a legal sources, they divided the investment amount in two parts. One part remain in hand and another part is investment for the long term sectors. The the one parts who is money or who is collected money remaining in hand, it's calls liquidities, because a grocery or any other businessmen who keep all the cash money, uh, uh, liquidity priorities are otherwise. This liquidity priorities money earned from daily sales for the purpose of buying raw materials and others related expense, uh, or he may keep with him some portions of this cash for buying a raw materials and deposit the remaining amount in a bank accounts. I mean, when a financial managers collected money or collected money by selling some product or materials, the sum of those monies to the sum of those monies are remain in hand to buying a raw materials, and another part of those monies deposit in remaining or deposit in a bank accounts, which it's possible to get some amount of interest profit after a certain period. In these situations, I mean, suppose when a financial managers invest just likes of 10,000, when a financial manager collected and 10,000 amount of money, they divided the amount of money in two parts. One part is remaining in hand, it's called is liquidities. The another part is invest in a accounts or in a bank, which provided a certain rate of interest, which call is the profitabilities. We know that there are the opposite relations between liquidities and profitabilities, because if I remain as a liquidities amount is 3,000, then the remaining amount is 7,000 investments. When we invest 7,000, then we get the more profit or more interest. Ultimately, when we invest 7,000 taka, or sorry, when we remaining in hand 7,000 taka as a liquidities, ultimately then we invest 3,000 taka. When we invest 3,000 taka, then we get the less interest or less profitabilities. So there are opposite relations, there are inverse relations between liquidities and profitabilities. For these reasons, a financial manager always try to maintain both parts or both sectors, I mean profitabilities and liquidities basis. So business people have to perform financial management such a way that can create the balance between the liquidity and investments. Its main, as in one side business people need cash reserve to bear the daily expense, thus on the other side cash should be invested for making profit too. So there is an inverse relationship between cash and liquidities. Huge cash decrease profitabilities, and again excess investment for the purpose of high profit causes cash crisis. So maintains a balance between liquidities and profitabilities is one of the principles of finance. So dear student, I hope you will be understand the relations between liquidities and profitabilities. That's why the financial manager also try to maintain the liquidities and profitabilities. Dear student, the second important options is competence principles. Competence principles basically acquiring current asset by short term fund and fixed asset by long term fund is a principles of finance, because of when a financial manager collected money for short terms I mean within 1 years, when he collected from the short term legal sources, they used those monies by for buying raw materials, daily wages and any other electricity bills. This called is short term finance. The another is basically we know that the current asset or the short term finance basically need to run the daily expense of a business, like raw materials purchase, payments of laborers, wages. On the other hand, machinery purchase, building constructions for the business, its are fixed capitals. As the amount of current capital is small, it is also yields less. For these reasons, this type of capital should be collected from the short-term sources of finance. The types of sources: commercial bank, the different financial institutions, investment banks, uh, debentures holders like provide long-term loan. On the other side, debentures holders, it is one kinds of debt which provided the long term finance. The commercial banks also uh, uh, sanction the different kinds of loan: short terms, mid terms, and long terms. A few of commercial banks sometime commercial banks always sanctioning the short term, basically short term loans, but sometimes they also sanctioning the long term loan. But after realizing the risks, the all sides of activities of a financial institutions, then they allow, then they sectioning the long term finance. So long term finance is very difficult to sanctioning loan. uh, on the other hand, current capitals should be managed for regular sales proceeds. High rate of interest has to be given to the loan providing institutions for collecting loan from the long term sources. So short term finance, it's provided a few amount of interest, but a high rate of interest also provided the long term finance. So dear student, you have to mention, so you have to remember these important notes. Then it appears that repayment of the interest for the earned incomes becomes impossible. So uh, this is the most important topics for a financial management managers to competence principles. So I hope all of the students, you will be understand that when you collected money for buying raw materials or to meet the daily necessities, then you should be collected money from short term finance. And when you wants to uh, purchase, when they want to purchase raw material, purchase buildings, lands, any other constructions, electronics elements, then he could be collected money from the long term sources, because long term sources bear a high rate of interest. So dear student, the third most important topics is diversifications and risk distributions principles. Diversifications, this is most important topics. At first we have to know what is diversifications and risk distributions principles. Diversifications, the basic things of diversifications is to reduce the uh, to reduce the risks when sellers or when a businessman uh, uh, sell more kinds of products than one kinds of products. It's called diversifications basically the main idea of diversifications of reduce the risks. When a companies or when a financial managers reduce the risk, then ultimately he increase the increase the sales, and ultimately he make up or he earn the more profits. By diversifications basic things, a man can easily diversify from his business risks, from his financial problems, and he can increasing the profits. ultimately decreasing the risk. Suppose if I give some example, then you can easily to clear it. The In the case of fund investments, if business product or service are as much as possible as diversify, the risk is distributions and reduce. Every business organizations try to earn profit uh, and uncertain futures, so business has to face a lot of risks. Those risks may be created for many reasons, such as change of the economics, political or social uh, problems, arrival of new product in the market, nature's calamities, sudden incidents. So it is not possible for the managers to control those uncertain situations, for the take preparations for them. But thought following the principles of risk distributions, profit is possible to be earned in these uncertain markets. If a business person does business only for a single product, profit earning becoming very risky. On the other hand, if the product of the business are different, just like of Mr. Korim, Mr. Korim sells in one kind of product, just lacks product, then he get the only one kinds of customers who who like to use the Lux product. But if you collected if you collected in your grocers or in your business Lux, Kia Cosmetics, Dove, Sandalina, Merrill, then the different kinds of people who likes different colorful or different kinds of soap, they are collected, they are come in the shops, and the business owner can sell the different kinds of soap, and they can easily reduce the risks and increasing his sales, and ultimately say increasing his profit. By this way, businessman can save, a businessman can reduce his risks and to increasing his profits. This is one kind of diversifications. If I give you another example, uh, uh, suppose a man or a businessman, if you collected only rainy seasons product, then when the rainy seasons come, then the all of the customers is crowded in his shops. But after this time, after the rainy seasons, the another seasons, no customers come in his shops, and ultimately they cannot sell the any product, and they face the many risks, and they cannot increasing his profit. Ultimately, by this way, when any product or any businessman can collect it, varieties items of this product. When library they can collected the different kinds of books. With his books, they collected the novels, they collected papers, they collected pencils, pen, any others raw materials who is used or who is needed daily necessity of for a student. By this way, and a shopkeepers, a librarian can reduce his risks, his or she her risks, and they make profit and increasing profits. This is the main idea from this in this topics. This is diversification and risk distributions principles. I hope all of the students you will be understand in my lectures. If you have or if you face any problem, you also mentions in